All right, wonderful. So, I had just been informing my friends on my team, my virtual team on Slack, the tool that we use, that I was sort of happy to be back in a little small room again, because it's all nice and cozy. And the laughs are usually bigger in small rooms. Damn, now back in the big room again. All right, I have to find another strategy. I was looking at the conference program last week and checking out the schedule, and I thought, oh, those bloody bastards. They scheduled me right after lunch. Among professional speakers, this is known as the graveyard slot. They expect me, Jurgen Appelo, to talk to dead people for an hour. So that's what I will be doing for the next hour or so. But no problem. I look at it as an opportunity because I have been preparing a brand new presentation for a couple of weeks, sort of, because I was also sick, just recovering now. But I was planning to do an entirely new presentation, and I thought, okay, well, that's good, because that means that a new presentation is an experiment. It counts as an experiment. I will be doing it for the very first time, which means there's a good chance of failing, right? And dead people can't talk. You won't be able to tell anyone afterwards. According to the TV series The Walking Dead, the only thing that you can say after the session is, That's your amount of communication that you can do. All right. So let's start. Here we go. I received this email, and it said, "Sorry, we cannot work with you. Maybe another time." It was. I had just finished my computer science studies. It was 1994. Yes, that was the last century, just after the Second World War. And I was planning to create an adventure game. I wanted to have a games company fresh off of the university. So I found myself some software developers, some amazing graphics designers, professional animators, one terrible script writer. And I went up and down to London to try and convince some British publishers to invest in our adventure game. Now, let me tell you honestly, our adventure game was nothing more than 10 drawings on paper, 3 pages of dialogue, 20 lines of test code, and a logo. We had a very cool logo. I always say, no matter what you do, as long as you have a logo, things will be fine, right? So we had nothing to show for. We were no team. We were just 7 enthusiastic guys getting together and trying to make a game. We didn't have anything, but it seemed to work well enough. I was talking with publishers, and one of them said, "Yeah, we'd like to invest in your adventure game." It was amazing, by the way, because I think the biggest adventure game was for publishers to figure out what the hell we were trying to do. That was the main game, I think. But one of them said, "Yeah, that looks nice. We will invest 1 million British pounds. There's just one minor detail. We have to get a signature from our head office in the United States." It never came. The signature never came. And the only thing I got was this email message after a while that said, "Sorry, no, it turns out we cannot work with you after all." And everything fell apart. All my hopes and dreams, had been working on this for 2 years, and a lot of money went down the drain. In hindsight, I think we were lucky. We were lucky. It would have been a disaster. It would have been a ticket to hell, I'm quite sure. We had no experience whatsoever. We'd never made a game before. We were so incompetent, we weren't even able to get the ticket to hell. I'm very glad about that, actually. But I learned something. I had been managing everything at that time, that whole project, but I think I forgot about one thing, and that was managing myself. And I will tell you more about that in a moment. First, another story. A couple of years later. It was the end of the 90s. My internet provider contacted me to tell me that my website that I had with them was so popular, it had the traffic going up, that it went through the monthly bandwidth limit. And actually they gave me a compliment because they said this was the first website to do so that was not about porn. I was very proud of that. I had just a very simple website. It was just HTML page with 100 most popular games in the world based on votes from visitors. That was all it did. And people seemed to like that. So I made some good money at that time. That was before then the upward swing of the internet bubble, with advertising and sponsorship, etc. And then I thought, I have to turn this into an internet startup. Obviously, everyone was doing that around me. I have to make this an internet startup. So I did. And I wrote a business plan. I wrote a business plan. It looked fabulous. The plan said that the revenues would be going up, the profits would be going up, number of employees would be going up, my ego would be going up. Everything was going up. It looked marvelous. It was amazing. I won an award for that plan. I'm not kidding. They named me Entrepreneur of the Year in 1999 in the Netherlands for a plan full of imaginary diagrams. Isn't that amazing? I now call it my first work of fiction. I got an award for my first work of fiction. They should have named me Fantasy Writer of the Year. The only thing missing from that document was 3 dragons. But anyways, and I learned, nowadays I know of course that those business plans are usual. Do not write a business plan, right? The biggest waste of your time is trying to outsmart the future. You can't. But I had to learn that along the way. The business plan worked for me because some informal investors said that they wanted to invest 1 million euros into my little company, and that actually happened. And then I hired 6 people, employees, and we started working really hard on our little internet startup. And for a year or so, a little bit more, we were very, very successful at spending all that money till the last euro. We never found any customers, sadly. Because just after we started, the whole internet bubble burst and everything fell apart, and our revenues from advertising and sponsorship, it all dried up, and we were unable to find any alternative sources of income. So that was pretty bad. Our investors, my investors said, oh well, that's the way it is. It's an experiment. These are all startups we invest in, and only 1 out of 10 succeed, so no problem. They just did like this and went on. But I mean, it was my baby that did not survive. So I was quite sad about that. Again, I had been managing things for a couple of years around me, including 6 employees, but there was one thing that I forgot. I did not properly manage myself. And then I had to find myself a decent job. I lost all my money, basically, at that time. It was 2001. And I had to find myself a decent job because I had to pay for the bare essentials of life, like food and shelter and my huge collection of science fiction novels. So I became a software developer at a big company of 4,000 people in the Netherlands. Huge, huge. And I had all kinds of ideas. It never stopped here. All kinds of ideas. I said, I want to write articles about being a software developer at that company. What? Articles? We have no need for articles at this company. No, write code, not articles. Okay, so and then I thought I want to speak at conferences and share my experiences, what is worth to work at this company. Speaking at conferences, my God, we'll have to pay for hotel expenses and plane tickets. Are you nuts? No, you just write code. And then I had the idea of I wanted to develop a product framework that would help other projects accelerate and be developed faster. Oh, for Christ's sake, just do your job and play over there while we make the real money. This went on and on for about a year. I felt very much not appreciated, basically. I had all these ideas and experiments that I wanted to run. And I wasn't able to manage anything around me. I was not a manager at that time, wasn't leading anything. But also I had to learn to better manage myself in order to be a better influencer. I'll give you some examples of that in a moment. But first, last story. My sister has 3 kids, and her eldest kid is called Sam, little Sam. Sam is 12 years old now. But he was, this is dangerous, by the way, this is very dangerous. I'll put it like this, easier. Not near my new computer. When Sam was 6 years old, he got a new bicycle for his birthday. It was a huge bicycle. Boy, Sam, bicycle, right? So Sam jumped on his new bicycle like this, and he started cycling around us. And he did pretty well for a couple of minutes around me and my sister, until Sam ended up in the bushes. He crashed into the bushes. Boy and bike completely disappeared. And before my sister and I could jump forward and help him out, Sam appeared from the bushes with twigs and leaves sticking out of his head with his huge bike and looking at us with big eyes and trembling lips, sort of asking for our confirmation, what the fuck just happened? And I had a very smart insight at that moment. I thought I should not pity him, because if I pity him now, he will start to cry. And I love children except when they are crying. So I took another approach. I said, Sam, that was spectacular. That was amazing. And Sam looked at me surprised. Yeah? I said, absolutely. That was the most magnificent fall I have ever seen. I've never seen someone fall off of a bike like that. That was amazing. Applause. And yeah, that was a spectacular fall. He agreed. And then he jumped back on his bike and started cycling again. I felt very proud of myself, Ben. I think I did a good job there. For about 2 minutes. Because then Sam came back and crashed his bike again. In the same bushes. I said, oh my God. And I heard from the bushes, that was also a spectacular fall. Sure, Sam. And my sister stood next to me and said, that was a new bicycle. And I said, well, why don't you give him an old bicycle then? So you're a kid. So apparently I taught a young boy the joy of failure. Right? I taught a young boy, 6 years old, the joy of failure. Now I've been at a lot of conferences like these, and every now and then I hear people say, let's celebrate failure. Let's enjoy this moment. Let's say, yay, we crashed. That was a beautiful crash. How many of you say, yeah, sometimes, every now and then, we should celebrate failure. We did a good job. That was a spectacular blunder. Yeah. How many of you? Hands up. Hands up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh, well, that's usually more hands go up, but I see a couple of hands go up. Yeah, oh, they're almost too shy to admit. And other people say, no, you should celebrate success when things are going well. Not crashing your bike in the bushes, no, winning the race. That's what you should celebrate. How many people you agree there? More hands go up. Yeah, more hands go up. Most of you do not speak English, apparently. How many of you say, well, it doesn't matter, failure, success, well, crashing your bike, winning the race, doesn't matter. Let's celebrate everything, party all the time. All the hands go up. You're insane. You're insane. Probably because you're zombies, you can't think. Okay, here's the real deal. This is one of my favorite diagrams. Probably, you know as well as I do that there are plenty of good practices. Good practices, that's on that side of the diagram. For example, I have a good practice, which is I have my smartphone always as a timer when I speak, so every now and then I can glance at my phone and I know how many minutes I have left. That's a decent, good practice. It works for me, and I use it all the time. Every now and then, good practices can fail as well. Like that one time when my smartphone's alarm went off in the middle of my keynote at exactly the wrong moment, which was quite embarrassing. All right, there it failed. But usually, good practices succeed. Then there are mistakes on the other side of the diagram. Mistakes usually fail. Bad outcomes, they don't work. Like, for example, I always use my own computer. I have been bitten too often at earlier conferences using other people's computers where there were viruses, USB sticks not working, fonts were missing, PowerPoint versions were installed in the 19th century, things like that. I'm not doing that again. I know my system works. I use my computer. But in that rare case, there was one exception where my computer died 10 minutes into my talk. I admit I was very happy to use someone else's computer at that time. That was an exception. I learned something there. Even mistakes can work every now and then. Then in the middle, we find experiments. This is the most important part of the diagram. We run experiments because when we don't know whether ideas will succeed or fail. That's the whole point of running an experiment. We may succeed, we may fail, we will find out. And learning, you see that thing at the bottom, is according to this diagram, according to information theory, it is optimal in the middle. We learn the most when we run experiments. That's the whole point. We don't learn anything when we just repeat the same good practices. We know that they work. We don't learn anything when we just repeat the same mistakes. It's just being stupid. But we may learn something in the case of a good practice failing. Aha, that's interesting. That's why it's never a best practice, because there are always areas where good practices don't work. Same the other way around. With the bad practices, or I prefer to call them mistakes, because usually we don't do them intentionally, well, sometimes they actually work in rare circumstances. Now, you may say, as some people do, celebrate failure. Yay, you crashed your bike into the bushes. Awesome, that was a spectacular fall. Well, look at what you're incentivizing. I just incentivized Sam to do it again. I celebrated failure. Well, doing it for the second time, that was a mistake. There was no learning there. But I had incentivized failure back then with Sam. The same the other way around. When you celebrate success, there is a reason for celebrating success, obviously. We want successes, but there is a danger as well. Because if it's the only thing that you do, you basically send people in that direction. And they will be only repeating good practices. Because the good practices have a higher chance of being successful. That you get paid, right? That you get compliments, that you are rewarded. Then the question is, who is going to run the experiments? Oh, well, not me, because, hey, it might fail, and then I'm not getting any rewards or earnings or compliments or whatever. So that's the danger with celebrating success. You also have to celebrate the learning that is taking place from experiments. Now, interestingly enough, I have learned that networks are great at learning. Networks are awesome at exploring landscapes, finding new opportunities. While hierarchies are very good at repeating the same thing over and over again. With good practices, we already know how things work. Just do it endlessly. When this hierarchy is pretty big, then we often call them enterprises, right? They have products and services, and they exploit the hell out of those products and services. Hierarchies are also very good at repeating the same mistakes again and again and again. And when those hierarchies are big, we usually call them governments, right? So I read in John Kotter's book, John Kotter is famous for the book Leading Change, one of the best change books ever written, probably. His latest book is called Accelerate, and there he said, you need both the hierarchy and the network in your organization. The informal network is there to explore new ideas, invent new things. That's what the hierarchy, the network is about. Like, this was the first iPhone, invented by a small network of very, very smart people. But then when they proved that it worked, that there was a market for it, and the hierarchy produced the other 700 million of that same thing. It's just exploiting that opportunity, driving costs down and profits up. No invention anymore. You need a bit of both. That makes a lot of sense to me. And sure, by all means, celebrate success if you also celebrate the middle part, which is learning. Learning that has to take place. By the way, this is a great visualization tool, I think, for retrospectives. I do this at the end of workshops. When I do a workshop, at the end of the day, I draw this diagram and I have people discuss, so what worked, what didn't work, what did you identify as a mistake or as a good practice, and what are the experiments that we should be running. And then I tell them, usually I run an experiment and I tell them which experiment I ran that day, and I ask them, was it a success or not? If it's a success, it goes in that direction. If it's a failure, it goes in that direction. We'll not do it again. So it's a great retrospective tool also for teams, I believe. All right, one more sip of my water. So I have been managing badly, particularly managing myself badly in the past. And we're now fast forwarding about 15 years to the future. I will skip everything that I did in the middle, how I became a somewhat better manager, and I'll focus on the last couple of months, last half year or so. I have been growing a little company called Happy Melly. And the company, the name of the company is based on this billboard. It is from my hometown, Rotterdam in the Netherlands. It's a huge billboard. It is meters wide, and it's actually a work of art. It's been there for 25 years in that street in Rotterdam. It only says, Melly Sham hates her job. That's it. Melly Sham hates her job. Melly has been hating her job for 25 years. And every time I come back there, I think, Melly, for God's sake, quit. Go somewhere else. Do something about it. Just don't sit there staring at the camera, smiling and hating your job. I mean, for God's sake, manage yourself a little bit. But there are many people who hate their jobs. I know that. And that is something that I find important. That gives me a cause, something to work towards. The last company I worked for, the company that I worked for 7 years, Chief Information Officer I was at that company. I did a lot of things, I learned a lot of things, but there was one thing missing in that company, and that was the purpose. We made e-commerce websites, one after the other, and I had no idea why. Why were we making one website after the other? I didn't know. Well, there was a mission statement somewhere, I knew that. There was a goal somewhere on a slide deck, somewhere on the file server. I recognized that from another workshop that I did with a German company. I asked them, there were 25 people in the room, and I said, what is the purpose of your company? It was very silent. Very silent. And then someone said, I think Peter has a mission statement in his slide deck this morning. Aha, interesting. So let me tell you something. Your corporate goal is not, your corporate goal on a slide deck somewhere in the file system is not a mission statement, right? It's a mystery statement. Nobody knows what it is. That's what it is. It's a mystery statement. It baffles everyone. What the hell are we trying to do here? I had that same with that company. I enjoyed my job for 7 years, but we did not have a purpose that united everyone. So with my new company, Happy Melly, we do have a purpose. We do have a purpose. Oh, let's see if the video plays. Well, I'm not playing sound, but just let's see if the video plays. Is it playing? No, it's not playing. No, it's not playing. Fuck. Hooray! Oh, failing! Yay, failing! Yay! Oh. Crashing into the bushes. Is it? I have no idea how this stupid thing. Okay, we'll do it without the video. The bloody thing. I'll show it afterwards. I have to figure it out. Never shown a video before in my presentation. Okay, I fail. But what we did with Happy Melly, with the Happy Melly team, is we have this purpose, which is helping people be happier in their jobs. And we made a little video that you're unable to see now that expresses the things that we do, the things that we have achieved. And it's a bit similar as this photo that I have found at a restaurant in Silicon Valley, somewhere near San Francisco. I took a picture of it. It was a Persian restaurant, and they have pictures of the first compliment of a guest in the restaurant, for example, and the awards that they won, newspaper articles about the restaurant. They are proud of that. This is their purpose. This is what I call a work exposition. It is an exhibition of the work that people do, and this really drives purpose. If people ask, what are we trying to do here? Well, just refer them to the work exhibition. That's the stuff. And if it doesn't motivate you, then maybe this is not the right job for you. Here's another one. Here's a picture that I got sent from a company in France. This is their work exhibition that they're very proud of. I have absolutely no idea what they're doing. What is this little thing with the frog? I have no idea. Very strange company, but no problem. They're proud of it. They're proud of it. This is their work exposition. So Work Expo, that is one of the concrete things that you can be doing as a team and as a manager in an organization. Instead of writing some kind of mystery statement hidden somewhere on a file server, it won't drive people's behavior because they have no idea what it is. But a work exhibition, anyone can look at it, say, yeah, that's the kind of stuff that we do here. This makes us feel proud. What more can we add to the table? So we have a good purpose. That's the first thing. What is the purpose of the team? Second thing that I have been doing is doing interviews. Of course, I was working on my own for several years, but then I started hiring people, starting with Lisette and Sergey. I already knew them for a couple of years. I had been working with them as freelancers. Now they became dedicated team members of me. And I basically then delegated everything to Sergey and Lisette. I said, you hire the other 5 ones. And I gave them a couple of questions to ask, some of my favorite questions. These are some of my favorite questions during the job interviews that we had with the new team members. Like, what's your favorite nickname? What's a stupid question like that? But it's very fascinating to ask a question like that and see what the answers are. The answer doesn't matter, it's just the response of the people. That's what matters. And what annoys you most in other people's work? I think that's a devious question. That's an interesting one of my favorites. And Lizette's favorite is the third one. Next week we dress up for a hangout party. What costume will you wear? Well, some candidates you saw like, what? You're dressing up for hangout parties? You're crazy guys. While other people say, oh, I have a closet full. I think I will put on my Batman costume. Or something like that. Oh, I have a panda suit. Those were the interesting people to work with, I noticed. I said, oh, this is a cool team to work with. What a silly questions. Another good one, what is wrong with Happy Million? How will you fix it? That really makes people think of what their own contribution will be on the team. And the other one, the next to last one, for what reason should I not hire you? That is it's another favorite of mine. Because basically here we tested honesty and integrity of the people. Some people had no answer for that. Of course you should hire me. I'm perfect. Well, I don't believe that. Then you're probably not the right person. I want to know why I should not hire you. Like one of the candidates, Louise, said very honestly, we interviewed her for the position of internet marketer, and she said, she doubted for a moment, and then she said, well, honestly, I don't think I'm an internet marketer. I love writing. I love writing. Writing is my passion. But I like doing internet marketing as well. I saw this vacancy. And then we said, perfect, we're hiring you as a writer. And we gave the internet marketing job to someone else. But we wanted a writer as well. It was just not on the top of our list yet. It was, okay, well, we found our writer, welcome. Because we appreciated that honesty so much. And she's very much valued as a team member. So those were the kinds of questions that we asked. And I think it is important to hire for mindset nowadays. Not so much for skill set. Because we're moving into the creative economy. Skill sets change all the time. It's amazing the number of tools that I have to learn each month. It makes no sense really to test people at competence levels in certain areas. They will learn. if they're smart. That's what you should test for. Are they good learners? Will they be able to learn a new tool in a week without reading a manual? That's secondary. Most important is, do they have the right mindset? Will they dress up as Barbara Streisand in the next costume party that we have online? That's a mindset question. So then we had team members, and the next thing we did was we scheduled our first hangout, and the only thing we did was we discussed personal maps. What is a personal map? It is simply a mind map of a person. Now you can do this in two ways. In my book, my latest book, Workout, I suggested that you create mind maps of other people so that you become aware of how little actually you know about your team members. The whiteness of the page will be staring at you accusingly. Is that all you know? You don't even know the name of their spouse? How embarrassing. But the other way is to see this as a team building exercise. At the start of a new team or start of a day, as I do in my workshops, people draw their own personal maps and then they put them on the walls and then we discuss them. Well, we had a virtual meeting, so we put them all in the same file folder. There's one requirement: you cannot discuss your own map. You cannot do a presentation of yourself. That's boring, right? You just put your map out there, then other people will start asking questions. So this was the very simple map of Hannu. Hannu is from Finland, which is why there's very, very little information about this on this map, because people from Finland are very silent people. I respect that. They don't talk that much. And with Hannu, it's exactly the same thing. I love him for it. Typical Finn guy. But he has a family, baby girl, and his girlfriend, Maya. Hobbies, scuba diving. Oh, that's interesting. Surfing, jogging. He wants to live a happy life. Well, that's why we hired him, of course. That's one of his passions. And location independence. That is very, very important for him, to be able to work all over the world. His goal, his dream is to be able to live and work in Bali and do surfing during the day and some work in the evenings. That's his perfect work life. So we hired him as our web developer. We had lots of questions about this map, particularly about the empty areas there that were still not filled in. Here are some more from my workshops. This is Pia Maria, a facilitator that I have been working with in the past. People taking pictures of the personal maps on the walls is a very popular exercise. And the nice thing is people can see connections between the maps. Oh, fascinating, you're also into fantasy books. Oh, you also love Terry Pratchett. Isn't it sad that he died just last week? Oh, I have all his books. And then conversations get started. People recognize the things that stand out to them as the stuff that they are familiar with. And that starts the bonding process on the team. Personal maps, very useful exercise to consider for your teams. But I have a few more. We do not have job titles on our team. We have 8 people, and I have absolutely no idea what the job titles are. I call myself CEO, but that's mainly outward facing, so that other people know which person to contact when they want to reach out to a CEO. We have certain responsibilities, like Jennifer does the internet marketing stuff, but I have no idea what her job title is, because we don't do that. We don't do that kind of stuff. There's something else that I find important, and that is crediting people for their contributions to projects, for the stuff that they have been doing. So the video, at the end of the videos, for example, we list the people who made those videos with their names and the roles that they had on those videos. On my books, of course, my books refer to the people who were involved in my book. On the website that we have, at the bottom of the page, it says who wrote the texts of those websites. I want to credit all the team members involved for their roles. And there's one exercise that I do in one of my in my latest workshop, and that's this one. I have people write 3 sticky notes. In the middle one, I have them write their job title, their official job title. Excuse me. Like in my case, that would be CEO. But as you can see, I had a workshop full of CEOs in my emo. That's ridiculous. I mean, that's any self-employed person is CEO. There's job title inflation everywhere. There are people there who are called senior vice president of the kitchen utensils and stuff like that. Is quite common to find in the middle area with job titles. I find that boring. What is more interesting is over here. This is what people like to call themselves, their personal brand. For me, it is creative networker. You can barely read it, but it says creative networker on my website and on my Twitter page. I like that name. I made it up myself. You can ignore it if you want, but it expresses what I'm trying to do. Networking with people around the world and being creative. So I adopted that title for myself. At the bottom, you find the roles, the actual stuff that people do. Like, I have been an author of a book. Right? I was the script writer for a video. That's what it says at the end of the video. On each project, I have a role and I am credited for it. Now, what I believe is important are the top and the bottom of this photo. The top is important because people want to express themselves. This is the top part of the famous pyramid of needs of Maslow. It says self-actualization at the top. People want to express themselves in the way that makes them happy. That is what the top part is for. The bottom part is also what makes people happy. That is progress, a sense of moving forward. That is what makes people happy. That they can do more things now that they could do yesterday. Like, they made a great video today that they were unable to make last year. That is progress. Now notice that progress should be achieved in terms of credits, reviews, views, whatever, the success of that project. It says author on my book. No matter how many books I write, Amazon is, even after 100 books, Amazon will still call me author, not senior vice president of authoring. That is a stupid way of making progress, titles, right? Makes no sense. I make progress because my new book has 100 reviews in less than half a year, while my first book still only has 40, and that took 3 years. That is progress. Right? That is the progress that makes me happy. I'm still author. It's still the author role that I have. Now, interestingly enough, I saw exactly the same when I read the book Creativity Inc. by Ed Catmull of Pixar, the famous movie studio in Hollywood. Or they're not in Hollywood, actually, I believe. They're somewhere else in Silicon Valley. But anyways, they describe that they do not have job titles at Pixar. What they have is anyone can call themselves anything they want. That's the top part. And they credit every person who is involved somehow in any of the movies they make. They list that role because, of course, they all want to end up on the Internet Movies database with their contribution to that movie. That's all you need. What are the job titles for then? And interestingly enough, they thought this was so important that when they were acquired by Disney a couple of years ago, they negotiated with Disney that Disney would not mandate job titles at Pixar. They said the deal would be off if Disney would start introducing job titles. This was so important for them not to have titles. They have roles and personal brands. Awesome. I have that as well at Happy Melly with my team. So I call them work profiles, that's the personal brands, and project credits. Credit people for everything that they do. A few more concrete ideas. One of the questions that I get asked most often all around the world is, how do we measure the performance of teams? Jurgen, we have Scrum teams, we have Agile teams. How do we know what their performance is? How can we measure them? And then usually my answer is, how do you measure yourself? And then the reply is along the lines of, oh, that's far too difficult, Jurgen, are you kidding? I have a very, very complex job. I'm a manager, for God's sake. I cannot just represent everything that I do with one simple metric, but I want to measure them. I want to measure the team. And then I say, well, that's not entirely fair, is it? If you want to measure other people, but you have no clue how to measure yourself. Measure yourself. Manage yourself. You see the theme here? So I am a firm believer in the system proposed by Google, which they actually stole or borrowed from Intel, called OKRs, Objectives, Key Results. In a nutshell, it works like this. OKRs stands for Objectives, Key Results. The objective is a qualitative goal. And at the beginning of January, our team was just formed. I had a goal for myself and the entire team is scaling up Management 3.0 licensing. What does that mean? That is a qualitative statement. You have to make that measurable. Well, that is what the key results are for. Those are the targets, basically. So the targets were, I said, well, I want 10 new inquiries for licensing at the end of March. Now we have 2 in early January. I want 125 facilitators. We had 102. And 30 events scheduled per month. It was 20. Those are clear targets. We can measure those. And it becomes measurable. Some people would refer to those as SMART goals. Simple, measurable, etc. And the top one, some people refer to as stretch goals. They're qualitative goals that should stretch yourself. Now, the process is as follows at Google. Everyone does this for themselves. This is my OKR. I am dependent on what my team members are doing, and in order to be able to achieve this, I had better be a good leader. But I am not imposing an OKR on anyone else. No, the constraint that I have is I required that all my team members came up with their own OKRs. I said, Jennifer, Sergey, Lizette, Hanu, what are you going to do these couple of months? What will be your objective, and how are you going to measure yourself? And at the end of this month, we're nearly at the end of the first quarter, we're going to report. And we can succeed, we can fail, it is all fine. Nobody will be punished, but we will learn. It will be an experiment. We will be sharing how we made progress or not, and what we learned from it, so that we do better next time. So everyone is measuring themselves. That is the beauty of OKRs. And at Google they do the same thing, only with tens of thousands of people. Everything is on the internet. Everyone can look up each other's OKRs and help each other out. But there's one thing that is important, is there is no direct connection between OKRs and rewards. That would be stupid. That would be stupid. So I'll show you one that I finished last year. There was a private one, private OKR, about being a runner. I've been running since spring last year, and I started off badly. It was terrible. I had pain everywhere in muscles I didn't even know existed. So I said, I want to be a healthy runner. That was the third quarter, I believe, of last year. What does it mean to be a healthy runner? Well, I thought by myself that should mean I should be able to run 75 kilometers per week, I thought, and run 10K per day, average running time 55 minutes, and no pain anywhere. That's important. I can measure that easily because I will know. And then at the end of the quarter, I started doing the self-assessment. And these were the results. Actually, 75 kilometers, that was way too ambitious. That was ridiculous. I didn't know. But I was able to do 50 kilometers per week. Still good enough, I suppose, still good. That meant a 44% increase. That was my score on that target. The second one, 10K per day, yeah, sure, no problem. I did that. 55 minutes, I did a race at the end of the third quarter, and it was 54 minutes and 25 seconds. Yes! I had that one too, 100%. The last one, to be honest, my left knee was slightly troubling me and giving me signals. Jurgen, ease down, or else I'm going to punish you. It was not painful yet, but it was giving me signals. So I did an honest self-assessment, and I thought 75 on that one. It's like this. It's not science. I'm not trying to cheat anyone. I'm not trying to game the system. I am the system. Why should I cheat on myself? The average is 80%. That's the score of this particular OKR. And at Google they say, well, that's okay. That's okay. You know what the optimum is? It's not 100. It's between 60 and 70. That's a good score. Because if you have a high score of 90 or 100%, then probably you weren't aiming high enough, they say at Google. Next time, try harder. It's a stretch goal. You should not achieve 100%. That's the idea. If it's less than 50, yay, you failed. You crashed into the bushes. Learn. What happened? I know some of my OKRs for this quarter, I will have like 0%. It's no problem, as long as I do a self-assessment and learn from it. I call it the metrics ecosystem in my book, because this is, I believe, what is the beauty of OKRs and similar systems, is that they are ecosystems of measurements. I have been reading a book about measurements, performance measurement in organizations. It was very interesting. I agreed with everything up to chapter 6, and then chapter 7 said, and now we pull everything together into a hierarchical measurement framework. And I thought, oh my God, no, there we go again. Why should it be a hierarchical measurement framework? Why not a network? We just saw it earlier. That's how people learn, in networks. So make it an ecosystem of metrics. Everyone is measuring everything. Compare it with athletes of some sports federation. Do they have a hierarchical management performance metric framework? No. All those athletes measure themselves with coaches, and they share their metrics, and they help each other out, measuring better, performing better, but they're all responsible for their own targets. That's what professional athletes do, and I believe professional creative workers should be doing the same. Okay, almost there. I'm sure some of you are familiar with the concept of values. Does anyone have a value list at their organization, number of bullet points with values? Yep, good number of cases here. Yep, all right, good. Well, it's a good start. It's a good start. Do you remember what they are, the values? Do you remember what they are? Do you know what the values are? Can you list them off the top of your head?
Human centricity. I need to translate human centricity, business focus, professionality, and trust.
And trust. All right, good. 1 point. All right. Usually, many times people don't know what they are. I suffer from that all the time. Like the Scrum values. There are 5 values. I never know what they are. They are documented somewhere. I believe respect is on them or something. And I never know what the bullet list is. And it turns out, actually, human beings are not so good at working with bullet lists of values. The intent is good. Values are important. But the practice itself fails because humans are not so good at memorizing these shopping lists of values. We have to look them up all the time. Like with that mission statement, that's not working when it's hidden on a file server, right? So we have something else. At Happy Melly, I said we are using Slack as our communication tool. And one of the channels is called Value Stories. The purpose of that channel is just to share stories of what we believe expresses our values. A story just shared recently by Louise. It was actually not of her own team. No, it was Jennifer, sorry. It was not of her own team, but it was her husband. She said her husband was offered a bonus, which is nice, but he had to sign some forms and basically lie on those forms in order to get that bonus without that bonus being taxed. And she said he had a really big problem with that. Basically, he doesn't want to, because it means lying to the government in order that the bonus will not be taxed, making sure it somehow ends up in a different box in the tax system or something. And then you end up with more. And Jennifer shared that story, that how difficult, how morally, ethically difficult that kind of decision is. It was a lot of money they were talking about, but it meant lying. I don't know what the outcome is, but I really appreciate sharing a story like that. One story that I shared recently was one conference organizer really wanted me to speak at their conference, and I mentioned the fee, and they wanted to negotiate. And I said, oh, I don't do negotiation. I don't like negotiations. I'm bad at it, so I always draw the shortest end. I don't do that. And more important, I want everyone to, I treat everyone the same. There's no difference between one organizer versus the other. Oh, but we don't have the right enough budget. And I thought, well, wait a minute. This is the second or the third time I am at your event, so I can come up with a new rule. If I return to the same event, then that event gets a discount. Oh, good. That's good. So I offered them a discount, but then I went to other organizers as well, and I checked which of the other events am I returning to, because then they earn the same discount. Because that is, for me, integrity. It is honesty. It is fairness. I do not want one person to pay more than another person, or one event to pay more than another event, for no good reason other than negotiation skills. Now, you may be different, and that's fine, but for me, this is about values. Right? This is how I work. And this is the kind of stuff that we share on our Slack channel, value stories. Look what kind of decision I made today. And I made that decision because. And we love that channel, because they're very fascinating experiences that we share with each other. And whenever a new team member joins us, instead of looking up a value list and trying to remember them, that's not going to work. I will simply refer them to the Value Stories Slack channel. Just browse back for a couple of weeks and read those stories. And then you see what kind of team we are, what kind of decisions that we make. Apparently, integrity is something that is important for me, but also for Jennifer and her husband. So that is probably one that will end up on the value list. Value stories, another chapter in my book. A few more topics, and then I will shut up. I'm not employing my team members. Actually, they're all entrepreneurs, freelancers, but they earn a fixed fee because we have a full pipeline of work and backlogs full of stuff. So it is as if I employ them, but they simply send me invoices. And then we have this salary formula. The salary is very, very simple. Everyone gets exactly the same amount. Everyone gets the same amount. We have been discussing for an hour or two how to distinguish location, Finland versus Spain, and experience levels and everything. And we couldn't agree. We didn't feel comfortable with any of those. The only thing that makes sense is number of hours, of course, the amount of work you do per week. Only we have our own interpretation of that. We decided on commitment levels. Like you choose commitment level 20, 40, 60, 80, or 100%. 100% means there's nothing else you're doing except happy melly stuff. And it's the only company that you will be invoicing. If you're invoicing other companies as well for other work, then it is maybe 60% commitment level. It works pretty well for us. I am now at commitment level 80%, but actually I will lower it next month to 60 because I want to spend a bit more time on my speaking, which is not happy melly related. So that works, but that's the only variable we have. We also discussed, as I said, what about Spain versus Finland? Because cost of living is higher in Finland versus Spain. And they have a salary formula at Buffer, social media company, maybe some of you know it, in New York. And in their salary formula, they say, well, those people living in Manhattan, they are paid somewhat more than the people living outside of Manhattan because the cost of living in Manhattan is higher. You pay more for your groceries, basically, and they compensate for that. And then we say, yeah, but what about Hanu and other people? Like, they live in Finland, but they would like to live in Bali. So what if he moves to Bali for a month? Do we lower his fee for 1 month? That doesn't make much sense. That's going to be very, very difficult with remote virtual workers. And then Sergey said something smart. He said, well, I read about GitHub, and at GitHub they have a salary formula basically that says everyone gets the same. No matter where you live in the world, whether it's San Francisco or Chicago or Detroit, whatever, you get the same amount. And that means that that amount of money is a decent amount when you live in San Francisco, but with that same amount of money you could live like a king in Detroit. But then you live in Detroit. You choose. And I thought that was actually a smart suggestion. So we have the same thing. Yes, the money is worth more in Spain than in Finland. Well, move to Spain then. Very few people want to move to Spain and actually live there. So that's your own choice. You get the same amount. So we have the salary formula. That's one part of compensation. The other part is one of the favorite topics in my book and in my work is merit money. What does merit money mean? Well, I'll tell you. Every month, at the end of the month, our team members give each other points. We give each other points for contributions to the work that we've done. I keep track of it during the month. I actually have a daily recurring task, says merits. Does someone earn merit, deserve merit for something that they did today? Did they teach me something, help me out with something, did something amazing? I make notes of that. At the end of the month, we credit people. Every person has 100 points. There's one condition: you cannot keep those points yourself. You have to distribute them to others around you. So 15 points for Jennifer, 12 points for Louise, 20 points for Sergey, whatever, and we always give the reasons, the arguments behind them. And then you earn points from your peers, and those points accumulate over time. And after a while, every twice per year or so, we calculate how much extra money do we have available. We convert it to bonus money, and that's the money that you get. The money that you actually earned in the eyes of your peers through your contributions to teamwork. It's amazing the effect that this has. They use similar systems at IGN, Linden Labs, makers of Second Life. There are tools out there such as youearnedit.com, bonus.ly, lots of tools nowadays emerging where teams can credit each other for contributions. For me, that makes a lot of sense. Because you know the old system, right? Where one person, the manager, decides who gets how much. We call that the traditional bonus system. We all know one thing for sure: everyone is going to hate that manager, except the one person who got the most money. He will love the manager, but everyone else will think that manager did a terrible job. Yeah. Did a terrible job. So I don't want to be that kind of manager who is hated by everyone. I would rather delegate it. Oh, look, this is your bonus money. You distribute it among each other, and good luck with it. Obviously, people have lots of questions when they hear about a system like this. They say, Jurgen, what about some people who are more popular than others? Doesn't it become a popularity contest? And I say, yes. But you already have a popularity contest with the traditional bonus system. It is called kissing the boss's ass. The person who is best able at kissing the boss's ass gets the most money. That is the traditional popularity contest that is being played. So you already have it. The change that you have with this new system is basically you democratize the ass kissing. Right? Everyone has to kiss asses all day long, everywhere. For the whole year, your lips will turn blue. It's going to hurt so much. Yes, it's a lot of work. Being influential, operating in a social network. Is it perfect? Of course not. Moving from a dictatorship to a democracy is not an easy process. And yes, democracies suck. We all know that. There's just no other system that works better. So we'll have to solve the problems along the way with democracy and with meritocracy, which is basically what merit money refers to. So, those are a couple of the practices that I now apply with my new team. I fast-forwarded through the last 15 years. I told you some stories of how I started off badly, basically trying to manage everything except managing myself. But I think I've become much better at managing myself, measuring myself, inspiring myself, and that has a payoff. That has really a payoff to my fellow team members, I've noticed. I always say I'm not managing anything actually. I am just trying to do a good job, and hopefully it radiates to the others. And then I get such compliments as, oh, you're not actually such a bad CEO. You're the first one who doesn't suck. I really appreciated that, what Jennifer said. So, obviously, people have questions. When they see ideas like this, oh my God, how am I going to implement something like this? Well, I agree. Some ideas are more difficult than others. But you can always achieve something, I'm quite sure of it. You can always do something. I'll give you one example. That company where I worked for 7 years, I was required to do performance appraisals. This stupid annual performance appraisal process where you have to fill out forms about everyone on competence levels, 1 to 5, communication skill, blah, 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 whatever. I had to do that. It was required. So I had these forms, and the last time I did this, I invited my direct team members. I had 5 members, small team. I invited them for dinner at a restaurant. I printed the forms. We handed out the forms at the table during dinner, and we had a very adult, mature conversation with each other about performance, about each other. And it was one of the most open, honest, and respectful conversations that I ever had. These were mature, adult human beings. We could have these discussions. And we were Dutch, so we have no problems talking honesty. We have no problems telling, hey, you suck, but you're an okay guy. But your work sucks, actually. Yeah. But you're an okay guy. I love you. Yeah, but your work's terrible. Yeah. No, just kidding. But no, it was open and honest feedback, and it was one of the best sessions that I ever had. And at the end of the dinner, I signed all the forms, and I gave them back to the HR department. Here are your forms. So I did what was expected of me. I turned in the forms, and it had good data on it. But as Frank Sinatra would have said, I did it my way. I did it in the way that I thought made sense. And this is what you have to think about when you see these new practices. This is not a square. Ceci n'est pas un carré. This is you being required to do things in a fixed scope, fixed budget, fixed time setting context, right? While you actually don't want to do that. But this is what the requirement, this is what the environment requires from you. This is the customer asking you to produce Gantt charts, but you don't want to, but you have to, because they want milestones and all that stuff. This is the HR department demanding performance appraisals and all these stupid forms once per year. And you don't want to do that, but you have to. You don't want to be that square. The environment wants you to be that square. You want to be like this. This is not a circle. Ceci n'est pas un cercle. This is you doing things in an agile way, in iterations with a backlog and continuous delivery. That's what you want to be doing. This is you working with burn down charts instead of Gantt charts. This is you doing frequent 360-degree meetings with your team, maybe over dinner or something like that, instead of annual performance appraisals. You want to be like that circle, but you're expected to be a square. Now the problem is most people think that these two don't go together, that there's a collision, a conflict between being a circle and required to be a square. But I think most of the time you can actually be both. You can be the circle inside the square. You can be a circle for yourself with your team, while on the outside you pretend to be a square for the environment. And that means that the environment sees you as a square, and they will love you for it. Now, oh, what a nice looking square that is. He is handing in performance appraisal forms. Well, that's very nice. Yeah, but I did it in a circly kind of way. I did it my way. And then, of course, there's stuff between the circle and the square that we could call waste. This is the conversion of the burn down charts to the Gantt charts. This is the collection of all the data that you gathered throughout the year of feedback sessions, and then putting it into those stupid performance appraisals forms, right? This is all the kind of crap, basically, that you need to do in order to satisfy that environment. You could call it waste, But I have learned from Michael Sahoda, a Canadian coach, that it's better to call it a tax. This is the tax that we're paying. It's not waste. Okay, well, in most countries, that's more or less the same thing. But if we call it tax, then it means that there's this intention of getting something in return, ultimately. It's an investment. We should get something back. We are generating trust with the environment. And that's one of the main things that I learned when I was CIO for 7 years at that company. After 7 years, I could do anything I wanted. I had gained so much trust among customers and top management, HR, I could do anything. But you only can do anything you want after you have earned people's trust. You only earn people's trust when you first do what they want. So be that circle inside the square. Pay the tax and you will get a return on investment ultimately, because the environment will love you for it. So, oh, what a nice looking square. And then after a while, you could say, now that I've done this your way for a while, can we discuss this square thing and make it a little bit less squarey? Can we round the corners a little bit? And then they say, well, you did your best so far. We're skeptical, but all right, we're willing to give it a try. They will never grant you that favor if you haven't achieved that trust first. That's how I became CIO. That's how I was able to do anything I wanted after 7 years and was able to write a book on company time. So, that's the end of it. All these stories, well, most of these practices, I mean, are in this book, Management Workout. It is the last one, and I actually have one. I have one copy here. I will show it to you. It is very heavy. Look, if you watch the Twitter stream, someone today will get this book, but you will have to watch the Twitter stream, right? I have no idea how I'm going to give this book to someone in the audience, but I will find a way and it will be on the Twitter stream. So better pay attention. It's a very heavy book. It's very colorful. There's a free version available. You can just download it and just read it, all, including the beautiful designs. It is all downloadable. But I made it very, very heavy, because if everything fails, if nothing succeeds, all your experiments fail, then the least thing you can do is throw it at people. Right? That will have an impact, I'm quite sure. It's 1 kilogram. So thank you very much for listening. All the articles are out there. Everything is available for free. And if you want to know where to get the book, just follow this URL, m30.me/Jurgen Appelo, and you'll find all my links and my social profiles and whatever. Thanks for listening and have a lot of fun. 6.5 minutes left, according to my timer. Is that correct, or do I have... No? It's the wrong timer. Okay, we stop. Is it time for questions, or do we just stop? Yeah. A few questions. All right, good. There's time for a few questions. You just tell me when to stop, all right? Questions. Gege.
So have you ever noticed that during this merit money, when the money is tied together with appraisal, it can ruin a bit the appraisal part?
So the question is, have you noticed that with the merit money that it's time to do appraisals, that the appraisals ruin the merit money thing?
I mean, the appraisal part is a bit eroding because it is tied together with the bonus.
Well, we do not have traditional performance appraisals, if that is what you mean. The only thing we have is merit money, basically. So this is how we give peer feedback with the merit money. It does have an effect on people, yes. One silly effect that it had, for example, in the beginning, we simply sent emails, because everything is transparent. We share the feedback transparently. So the first iterations, we sent emails to everyone with the points. But then the Christmas card syndrome popped up. You wanted to be the last one to send the credits. Because you wanted to know which other people do I get credits from. So I know which people to return credits to. And then we notice this phenomenon appearing and say, okay, this is not going to work. We have to put them all in a central system, and then after we gave credits, then we read what we earned. So these are the simple things. Yes, it's human system dynamics basically at play. You have to tweak these little rules to make sure that it works. But right now it works, and we're quite happy with it. Thanks for your question. Other question? Anyone else? 2 questions. Yes, go ahead.
What is the merit money connected to the rewarding system? You mentioned previously that I'm not sure. So do you connect the merit money to the rewarding system, or what is the result with the merit money?
What the result? There are lots of different ways of doing this. I know teams have implemented without any rewards because simply the crediting and the positive feedback is already worth a lot. Right? We add bonus to it because I want the money that is earned by the team to actually be distributed to team members in a way that the team thinks it is fair. But we do it in such a way that we focus only on points, and once or twice per year I as a CEO will decide how much bonus money will be available. It will depend on the profits basically. It may be 0. We don't know yet. We just started with the team. But hopefully it will be more than 0, and then I can say, okay, well, this will be the budget, and I will allocate this to merit money. And then we will see, then we will enable people to convert their points that they earned to the money that is available. Or it's a bit like, we're considering even a bit like an airline frequent flyer mile system where you have the option to convert to money, but if you don't need it, you can wait, because maybe next time the conversion rate will be better.
So it's open and transparent.
And everything is transparent. Yeah, exactly. But it's an option. Converting to money is obviously an option that you have, but you don't have to. Okay, the lady over there had a question in the middle.
I'm sure you get this question, but this seems to work very well in a team, but as you mentioned, it's a small team. So have you seen it work in bigger teams and maybe at a client you have, or
well, it is
how would that scale?
So how does it scale? Well, it is so new that I have only heard of a couple of implementations, and they're usually small teams indeed. The story where I first picked it up was at IGN, which is International Games Network, which is part of News Corporation, and Linden Labs, and they are slightly bigger companies. And there was someone in my workshop, in my very last workshop in Buenos Aires in Argentina. That person had worked for Shopify.com, and he said they also used merit money there. Basically, every person, every month, they got real money, like $100 or something, and they had to give it away to other people. And that is a larger company, Shopify. I have no idea how many people work there. And he said it worked tremendously well. They were very, very happy with that opportunity of giving money away to anyone. Anyone was allowed in the company. But of course, all the details can all be tweaked. Because one question that I get a lot is, how do you do this with a company of consultants, for example, who formally are one company, but they rarely see each other because everyone is at customer sites? Yeah, that could be a challenge. I agree. A question, yes.
It's really appealing. Shall I do this with my kids?
I'm sorry, I didn't get.
Shall I do this with my kids?
Shall I do that with your kids? The merit money stuff.
It's really appealing.
Yeah. Well, you could start. I would start without the money, and maybe with jelly beans or something. So here you have 20 jelly beans and give them to your peers or your parents or anything. It's an interesting exercise. I look forward to your report on that experiment.
Sorry, time's up.
Time is up. Thank you so much for listening, and I will be available in the hallway.
I was talking yesterday with a lady mentioned that this is why I asked, because they have this system.